Last year I talked about Morbius, a critical and commercial failure of a film that became the subject of ironic enjoyment. But while Morbius is quite possibly the largest case of a piece of media receiving this treatment, that's not to say that the more niche cases aren't also subjects of interest. As opposed to something broad enough to span the entire internet, these more niche cases tend to be confined to smaller circles and can say a lot about the culture of the circles in question. And speaking of culture, few films are as cultured as the 2018 cinematic masterpiece Gotti. Gotti was a biopic about the famous New York mob boss John Gotti, who was also known as the Teflon Don because for the longest time it seemed like any criminal charge against him could never truly stick. And it's not a very good movie. Awkward pacing, laughably bad acting, a soundtrack by Pitbull, and a screenplay that features such legendary lines of dialogue as, "I'll park a bus up your ass sideways." Oh, and who could forget the film's truly iconic opening?
Let me tell you something. New York is the greatest city in the world. My city. I was a kid in these streets. I started in the gutter, and I made it to the top. This life ends one of two ways, dead or in jail. I did both.
So all of Gotti's attempts to be a serious mob biopic fell flat on their face. And all of these flaws are before mentioning the film's bias towards both John Gotti and the narrative that he's good solely because he killed other mobsters, seeing as how the rights had to be purchased directly from Gotti's son. Wow, I cannot believe that Hollywood would sacrifice its integrity to pander to an evil organization. This is completely unheard of. With everything against Gotti, it's no surprise that the film would do terribly in both a critical sense and a commercial sense. Gotti is one of the few films with the distinct honor of having a 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and the website's critics' consensus section shows only one word: forget about it. And if you read the quotes from the critics themselves, you'll see the film get completely torn to shreds. There are 44 credited producers on the picture, good lord. And not one person had the nerve to question just what kind of derivative, borderline nonsensical film was being made. He may have been a murderer, but even Gotti deserved better than this. I'd rather wake up next to a severed horse head than ever watch Gotti again. As for how Gotti did commercially, it didn't fare much better. The film had a $10 million budget, but only made less than $7 million. Films generally have to make multiple times their budget to be seen as profitable, and Gotti couldn't even manage to make 1 times its budget. However, in addition to the film's critical and commercial failings, Gotti was also getting bad PR. For starters, there's the film's connections with MoviePass. MoviePass is a subscription service that allows users to watch movies in theaters multiple times a week. It was really popular in mid-2018, although it later fell off due to changes when its business model was found to be unprofitable. And around the time of Gotti's release, MoviePass seemed to be aggressively shilling the film through push notifications. Gee, I wonder if there was some sort of ulterior motive. MoviePass has a stake in Gotti's profits. But let's go back to the push notifications. Pay attention to the wording on this one. Audiences love Gotti, but critics think otherwise. Who do you trust? See it today. As it turns out, Gotti's marketing team tried to use the film's bad reviews to its advantage and portray them as part of some grand conspiracy against the average person. On June 18, 2018, the Gotti film's social media accounts put out a video that would go down in history as one of the greatest ads in the history of film.
We've never been under this kind of scrutiny.
You fight till you can't fight no more. Never back off, ever.
The audiences love Gotti. Critics put out the hit ad focused on a perceived discrepancy between the film's critic score and audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. This campaign would show the world who's boss and save Gotti's box office. Or at least that's what I would have said if it wasn't the dumbest idea ever. I shouldn't have to say why telling potential viewers that a lot of people think your movie is bad isn't exactly the brightest idea for a marketing strategy. And even beyond that obvious flaw, the campaign would backfire when people analyzed the audience score and found some suspicious activity. Many of the accounts leaving reviews were created in the month of Gotti's release, which would seem to imply that they were artificially created to boost the film's score. Even more damning was how some of the accounts either only reviewed Gotti or left a second review for another film that MoviePass had a stake in. So all in all, Gotti's last-ditch effort of a campaign accomplished nothing and didn't do anything to make the film any less of a failure. Between its critical and commercial failings, it seemed like Gotti was a film that was doomed to obscurity, never leaving any impact after its release. Bad movies are a dime a dozen, and Gotti wasn't doing anything to stand out amongst this endless sea. But several months after the film's demise, realized something interesting would happen. A Reddit user with the handle u/KevinSpacesGarage seemed to have an obsession with Gotti and would start making various memes ironically praising the film in December of 2018. On February of 2019, they would post a meme about a hypothetical Gotti 2 causing Avengers Endgame to get delayed to r/moviescirclejerk, a subreddit with the primary purpose of making fun of movies and the culture surrounding them. And this meme would get 2,000 upvotes, an impressive amount for one centered around a film that's this niche. Thus, Gotti memes slowly but surely started to gain momentum. u/KevinSpacesGarage would continue to make similar memes about the film. Other users would begin to join in, to the point where one user created an r/Gotti subreddit for additional Gotti posting. But what truly got the ball rolling happened on March 21st, 2019. YouTuber Ralph the Movie Maker made a review covering the shortcomings of the Gotti film as well as the previously mentioned shady stuff surrounding it. This review would cause some of Ralph's fans to find out about Gotti memes. As such, an influx of these memes would occur on both the subreddits relevant to Ralph and the two aforementioned subreddits. There were memes ironically portraying Gotti as the greatest film ever made, memes comparing the film favorably to Goodfellas and other inferior mob flicks, and memes about the existence of the GCU, the Gotti Cinematic Universe. Gotti memes were especially prevalent in r/moviescirclejerk, to the point where the phrase critics put out the hit is still a big part of the sub's lexicon to this very day, and you could get outvoted just by posting a single unedited picture of Gotti himself. In June of 2019, the sub's mods even had to step in and ban Gotti memes due to their frequency, although this decision was quickly reversed in the subsequent month. I think what made Gotti memes so attractive to people in these subreddits is the feeling of being in on an inside joke. In a capitalist hellscape where the majority of film discussion is completely dominated by massive pre-existing franchises, it's nice to have discussions center around a comparatively obscure film for once. There's even this sense of community associated with Gotti memes, as one of the more active users of r/moviescirclejerk went as far to make a video celebrating the film's 1-year anniversary by showcasing most, if not all, of the posts about it. And fun fact, one of these posts was made by me, albeit on an account that I have since deleted. It's a long story. Well anyways, Gotti could have just ended there as the inside joke of a small handful of subreddits. But you see, Gotti didn't just end there. It ended as the inside joke of a couple subreddits and also an additional website. Letterboxd is an area of the internet I've talked about before, specifically in relation to how one of its pages was used to dunk on an objectively horrible person. You can use it to keep track of the films you've watched and write reviews for them, typical stuff. The users of this website will of course only write 100% serious reviews. Some users have even gone as far to create entire accounts dedicated to a specific gimmick. For example, there's McDonald's USA, a gimmick account playing the role of a McDonald's brand account doing film reviews. And the account that's relevant to today's video is one only known as Gotti Lover 5000. On July 3rd, 2020, Gotti Lover 5000 would go to Gotti's Letterboxd page and leave a profound and insightful review of the film. Wow, what an avant-garde indie film. I was blown away by the cinematography. Incredible performances. The script was up there with classics like Pulp Fiction and Citizen Kane. That hack, Martin Scorsese, wishes he could replicate true cinema like this. Instead, he just spits out mob flick after mob flick, hoping to come even close to what this film achieves. Gotti is a movie like none other. You won't see another like it if you live to be 5,000. 11 out of 10. However, Gotti Lover 5000 wouldn't just stop at sharing valuable insights on one film, as he, she, or they would leave thought-provoking reviews on all sorts of films. There's a passionate review of the 2015 masterpiece Minions that serves as a rallying cry for all Minions connoisseurs. There's a clear and concise review of the 1988 Ghibli film Grave of the Fireflies. And finally, there's a well-articulated and brutal takedown of Goodfellas and the hack fraud Martin Scorsese. Gotti Lover 5000 became well-renowned among Letterboxd users as a beloved champion of the people. But that's not to say that this beloved champion of the people didn't face any resistance. A mortal enemy to Gotti Lover 5000 arose in the form of another Letterboxd account, Gotti Hater 5000. Little is known about this individual other than their love of Martin Scorsese and their complete and utter hatred of Gotti. It's to the point where in one review they openly express their desire for Gotti fans to be hunted down and killed. The battles between Gotti Lover 5000 and Gotti Hater 5000 were fierce, and it was impossible to tell who would win. Unfortunately though, this legendary battle of the ages had to end prematurely. Letterboxd shadowbanned Gotti Lover 5000 in an attempt to stop them from telling the truth. So Gotti Lover 5000 was forced to retire, and on January 3rd, 2021 they put out two final reviews. The first was a review of the 1984 film The Hit, where they announced their retirement and gave one last request to get Gotti's score on the site as high as possible. And their final send-off was a review of the 2003 film All Good Things Must Come to an End, where they sang Pitbull's masterpiece Amore from the Gotti soundtrack. But what was truly unexpected was Gotti Hater 5000's reaction to the whole ordeal. Upon seeing the utter cruelty with which Gotti Lover 5000 was treated, Gotti Hater 5000 changed sides and bumped up Gotti's review score from half a star to a full 5 stars. In one final act of solidarity, they revealed that they were blacklisted as well, announced their departure, and echoed Gotti Lover 5000's final request. This truly was the greatest anime redemption arc of all time. Oh, and months later, both their Letterboxd accounts got terminated, and now all that's left of them is 2 tags on Gotti's page on the website. Letterboxd? More like letter bad. Listen to me, and listen to me good. You're never gonna see another film like Gotti if you live to be 5,000.